I'll open the Commissioners' meeting for March 27th. We're going to change the agenda a little bit. We have our first individual here to talk about accounting practices. And then we will go into non-public session across the hall, and then start with our department heads meeting.
We introduce JD?
So, what's that?
Can we introduce JD?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. And we'll have public input right after him, okay?
This morning, because we've had some questions about our accounting and how it works, I invited partner in Leone Bigelow, John Daigneault from Wolfeboro, to come over and speak to us and give us some idea of what we should be expecting from our accountant, what roughly we could do to tighten up our system if we have to, or anything in general about accounting that that we need to know. And with that, JD, you want to?
Come on up, John.
Where would you like me to sit?
Come on right up here.
Well, you want to get your face in it, don't you?
Probably not. Don't forget I'm wanted. Morning.
Good morning.
What should we be expecting, and how does this new double layer system work, JD?
Well, I guess I'd like to take a step back.
Okay.
What are you getting now? Is the county audited?
Right.
What's the fiscal year end date of the county?
January 1.
So have you received your December 31st audit report yet?
No. The auditor's been in, and they have reviewed the nursing home because there is a requirement over there to have it done on a date.
Yeah, you probably have a Medicaid cost report.
Right, exactly, exactly. And I don't know if they're still working on that or if it has been completed. I assume it's been completed because they were here a week ago. And they'll come back and they will go through all our records. They will go through corporate extension also because we fund them, and all the departments here.
As far as what you'd expect then would be at the end, you'd expect an auditor's report.
Right.
That would contain an opinion.
Yep.
Where the auditor expresses either a qualified opinion, an unqualified opinion, or an adverse opinion on the county's financial statements. Yep. Unqualified being they're fine, qualified being they're fine, but
yeah.
Adverse being you guys have some issues.
Okay. The other thing is that it started either the last year or the year before where it's now required that somebody else comes in and checks the auditor report or the auditor's findings.
Now is that, who does that for you?
I don't recall. Our financial officer would have that information.
Well, what I did, and this isn't what you guys see, but it's kind of boilerplate. If you want to pass those. In accounting and auditing, we use what we call engagement letters, where we tell you what we're going to do, we tell you how we're going to do it, and we kind of place blame on everybody else if something goes wrong, to be honest with you. But what I did, and what's important for you guys as commissioners, would be on the second page under management responsibilities, because that's what your auditing firm is placing on you guys as the county commissioners, what you guys are responsible for. And if you go back under audit procedures, that's what your audit firm does for you. There's a lot of verbiage in there. I just highlighted the more important parts that you guys should probably be aware of as commissioners.
What is your definition between what a financial statement is versus what the auditors provide us?
A financial statement is a balance sheet, income statement, a prescribed form of how your financial statements are presented. An audit opinion is the opinion on those financial statements, where the auditors come in under, if you look under the audit procedures, done all those audit procedures, and in the end says, yes, your financials are presented fairly in all material respects. A set of financial statements is just, like I said, a balance sheet, income statement, whatever it may be. It becomes an audited set of financial statements when the first page of it is the auditor's opinion on those financial statements.
What should we expect from an auditor?
You know, I think we ought to have Kathy Garry up here.
Oh, yeah, that would be a good idea.
You know?
Let's get our financial lady up here, Judy.
And you are from Wolfeboro?
Yes.
Is that correct?
And for the purpose of public disclosure, JD is also my accountant.
That doesn't make me bad.
What do you call this? What do you call this first person that was in here the other day, just lining up the Medicaid stuff?
Sounds like that's your audit firm, because the CMS requires, I forget whether 90 days or 120 days, that they receive a Medicare cost report.
What, after the
the
quarter
year.
or after the end of the fiscal year?
It's after the end of the fiscal year. That, you know, they have, usually it's prepared internally, and the auditors will audit it, all depending, you know, because of budget cuts, a lot of places just don't have the horsepower to do it, so the audit firm a lot of times prepares the cost report. And that's submitted to Medicare, and that's how they set up your reimbursement rate for the following year.
She on her way up?
Yeah. Kathy Garry is a financial officer, and she is more familiar with the auditing process and actually where we stand right now.
You know, as to what you'd expect, you know, the way our firm does it is on larger audits, we usually come in, you know, for a couple days prior to year end, do a lot of our testing then. And testing and auditing is you sit with everyone involved and you walk through your procedures. It would be like I sat with you and I said, okay, you're the payroll clerk. How does payroll work? And you'd tell me. And I'd say, okay.
Excuse me, Jay. Kathy Garry, this is John Daigneault.
Hi, nice to
Should have
Nice to meet
invited oversight. You should have been here at the start. But
Okay.
And we'd say, okay, how do you do your payroll? You'd tell me. We'd document it, then we'd go back and test it. Okay, they said this person processes the timesheets. Did that person process the timesheets? Yes or no? They said it then goes to this person for approval. Did that person approve all the timesheets? Yes or no? Just a testing procedure of all your procedures down through.
Okay. How is our payroll done now?
It at the when the auditors come in, they do that
Yeah.
testing. They do a they ask for the beginning check of the year and the ending check of the year, and I don't know how they pick it out.
We have formulas.
Yeah, there's a formula, and then they pick
Every
the check.
30th check or something like that.
Well, I don't know, however, it's random, it's all random, and then they pull the timesheet, they pull the employee folder, they pull, they track it through the system.
And the main goal of the audit and the main goal of your internal control system should be that no one person can initiate and complete a transaction. No one should be able to say, okay, I want a check payable to ABC company, order the check, get the check, sign the check, mail the check.
Okay.
And that's what an audit does, and not just in checks, but in payroll and every other procedure to make sure that inside your systems, there are checks and balances
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that isn't possible.
Okay, with all the checks, with the exception of payroll, commissioners look at the vouchers, and we
That's another internal control
actually
procedure.
sign the
Yep.
check. And the treasurer also looks at the vouchers. He signs it, and at least one of us sign it, if not two of us.
And then
Sign
that-
all of the checks that go out, with the exception of payroll.
And that would be another audit test, would be we randomly choose X amount of checks to ensure that one of the commissioners signed it,
Mm-hmm.
and that if your procedure is the treasurer is supposed to sign off on an addition, that the treasurer did sign off on it. That's what an audit is,
Yeah.
taking what you say is supposed to happen and ensuring that it did happen for
Mhm.
your financial transactions.
Okay, okay. So,
Yeah, that's how it.
Yeah.
how
so we're
it-
doing that.
Yeah, also, they also pick like new equipment,
Yeah.
anything that's charged to new equipment, so that if something has to be, you know,
Depreciated.
depreciated, capitalized, they pick up all of those.
Who's your firm?
Well, John Lightford has been doing it from Mason and Witch.
Oh, Mason and John, they're a very good firm.
Yeah.
And who checks them?
Well, that's it. This year we have, because of GASB regulations,
Mm-hmm.
whoever creates the financial report has to be audited by a separate firm.
Yeah, what it is, it's a peer review process.
Yeah.
And we're involved in it. If you issue audit opinions and review opinions, you have to have, your accounting firm has to be audited by another
Mhm.
accounting firm,
Okay.
where they come in and audit our procedures, how we do things to ensure that we're
Yeah.
doing it,
Yeah.
as promulgated by the
So,
AIC.
so I was mistaken. It's just going to start this year?
Yeah.
I
and-
thought it started last year.
Yeah,
No?
and he also, well, I mean, they look at minutes,
Yeah,
they look at
personnel policies,
personnel
HR
policy,
policies,
yeah,
yeah.
they look at all that paperwork. And they also look at, they don't just look in our office,
Mhm.
they go to the sheriff's department, they go to the registry of deeds, they go to all of the departments.
Okay.
And UNH, they go to
Oh,
the
the extension.
Extension.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the fact that they don't catch some of the shenanigans that are going on here in the last 10 years is because they haven't hit it with the test? Or-
Well, the problem is, and as I said a little jokingly, but I guess it's not now that you bring that up, in every engagement letter, there's a paragraph that we put in that because of the inherent limitations of an audit, combined with the inherent limitations of internal control, and because we will not perform a detailed examination of all transactions, there is a risk that material misstatements may exist and not be detected by us, even though the audit is properly planned and performed in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. We're not going to catch everything. You hope you do,
Mhm.
because it's kind of embarrassing when you don't and it comes out after the fact. But with the amount of transaction you guys are processing, if your audit firm was to look at every transaction, you're looking at a $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 audit fee.
Yeah.
So you kind of weigh the cost and the benefit and hope that the test you have designed would pick up anything.
Mhm.
Now, do you design a test for each facility you go into, JD, or is it
It all
just
depends.
a standard certified public accountant test that you do?
The key is your initial interviews with your internal staff and how they describe their internal control structure. And like we talked about payroll, if there's 8 steps in payroll, we go to test payroll and consistently 3 of the 8 steps are being missed. In our mind, that expands our testing of payroll. So we want to go back and test more and more and more payroll until from our judgment, yeah, they're missing those 3 steps, but it's okay. The same if on cash disbursements, if the commissioners are supposed to sign every check, we start going through and there's checks the commissioners didn't sign, you expand your testing to bring in more transactions until you're satisfied
Mhm.
that hopefully there isn't a misstatement in there.
Right.
And the same with cash receipts. If X, Y, and Z is supposed to happen and only X is happening, you expand your testing until you're satisfied that everything is okay. And then if those aren't followed, it's the auditor's responsibility then to report back to you that you said you were doing X, Y, and Z during our audit, we only noted you were doing X, you should do Y and Z.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So is this the type of thing we should expect to get, the information we should expect to get from our auditing firm?
Usually, all our audits, we try to, when we present them, in addition to presenting the financial statements, we present what we call a management letter that, kind of summarizes the audit, any difficulties we encountered, any items we came across that, while they're fine, perhaps they could be treated in a different manner that would be more efficient or create a better audit trail.
Mm-hmm.
So the gentleman I talked to here was just here lining up the Medicaid or Medicare payment schedule?
No. It was starting to do the financial report, but he was working primarily on the nursing home piece of it. Okay. To do the cost report. He was preparing getting the numbers so that our person, who Howie and Paula have, do the cost report, had all the numbers for that, which included, any depreciation of the nursing home equipment and that sort of thing.
Because that's how they set your reimbursement rate off that cost report.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm. Where is he on that?
Well, he did his part, and I know it went off to Robin Grell, so Howie and Paula should have that to you very shortly.
Mm-hmm. So that's completed?
That piece of it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When is he coming back to do the whole county?
We haven't set a firm date yet.
Okay.
So we have to do that. And then send out the RFP for the firm to audit the financials.
So do you, from what you've heard, do you think we're doing the right thing?
Based on everything you've said, it's the typical audit. They came in early to get done what they had to get done. As you know, accounting firms are very busy through April, so I'm sure they'll be back after April 15th to finish up the audit. It sounds like a typical audit.
Yeah. They normally are here earlier though, right?
No, it's usually
April?
No, I mean, he came in the end of February, March. Yeah.
Okay.
And then because there's those reports that have to
Yeah.
get to, as the cost reports have to get to
Okay.
a certain point, but then there's so much other information they have to go through. Like I said, they have to go to the sheriff's department, they have to go to the registry of deeds, they have to go to the jail, they have to.
Yeah. So they're here a week?
A full week.
Yeah.
But like I said, they'll go to Hale's location.
Oh, they do Hales too?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it isn't just in one spot.
Yeah. So, Commissioner Babson, does that answer your questions?
I was just going to ask JD, and it slipped my mind. You were talking about, I'll think of it and I'll call him up at home and ask him.
But you had some concerns about whether we were doing it properly?
No,
that convinced you?
in talking to that gentleman, he said that we hadn't had a financial statement in a year or 2 years, and that seems strange to me. He also said that he was no longer a certified public accountant, he was just an accountant, and I'm sure that's fine, but I just didn't understand what was going on, and I think that it has disturbed me over the years that some of the stuff's been missed, but I understand why now.
Okay, so.
I know what the question was. JD, other than the county things that we get into, is there any advantage to having the fiscal year begin July 1st? Does it ease the pain any?
You'd fall into step with the state of New Hampshire. The state and the state's June 30. Department of Health and Human Services is June 30. Department of Mental Health June 30. A lot of the state and the majority of their agencies are June 30.
Mm-hmm.
Would that help our bookkeeping any?
No, wouldn't change it. Probably make your accounting firm happy that they wouldn't have to deal with the audit through tax season. They could do it, September, October, November.
I don't know how the cost report would work though, because that's.
I'd probably have to get permission from Medicare to change your year end. Maybe they're the ones who promulgated that you have to be December. I don't know.
No, I think we're only one or two or three counties that fiscal year is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Towards the
don't
end
know
of
how that
December,
would
the
work.
rest of them are in July 1st, because it makes sense, the busiest part of the year for the legislature is January through May, and we're working on, they're supposed to be here working on budgets, and they're down in Concord working on other bills. And I always thought that moving it to the 1st of July would make more sense, but
Aren't there all the towns December, though?
Most of,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I don't know if it's a town thing, I don't know. I know your audit firm would like it.
Yeah. It's up to the delegation, I think, to make that change as to whether we go on.
well, the
continue
squawk
the
has
way we
always
are.
been the 18-month
Yeah,
tax period that we'd have to come up with.
right, right.
Yeah, because the statute says exactly when the taxes are due, and
Mhm.
that's December.
But also, there's an RSA that allows you to change to 18 months and describes how you can do it.
Probably would have to borrow more TAN to
Yeah, I
keep the
think
cash
so.
flow going
Mhm.
to do that.
But those would be the only reasons. It would take the load off the,
Yeah, it's, you know, I don't know, we usually set up year ends, most of the year end setups, as far as not-for-profits, are due to funding. You know, their funding sources say you should be a X year end, September.
Mhm.
You know, most of the cap agencies, I believe, are a lot of September year ends, June and September for the cap agencies. So a lot of it's set forth by their majority of their funding.
well, any other questions?
I don't have any.
Thank you
You
very
have
much,
any
Judy.
questions?
No, no.
Nice
I
to meet
just,
you.
nice to meet you. I want to talk to you. You went to Plymouth? Yeah, my brother went to Plymouth, so I think.
At the same time?
At the same
Oh,
time.
really?
Yeah, I just didn't chat, but anyway,
Okay.
do you?
You probably wouldn't have met him, he was in the
Oh, I have
classrooms.
Yeah.
By the way, happy birthday tomorrow.
Thank you.
60?
Before he leaves, for those in the public, Commissioner Babson thought it would be good to bring in an accountant to sort of give us some information as to whether we're doing things right or wrong, just sort of a review of things, and hopefully Commissioner Babson has got his answers. And we appreciate you coming in
No problem.
to talk with us and share your information with us. So
I got one more question. JD, are there firms that specialize in municipal, or
Yes.
when we go out for bid, should the whole world bid on, or should we be directing it to a specialty house, or whatever you call yourselves?
Municipal auditing's difficult. I wouldn't want to hire a firm that Carroll County was their only municipal client. I know Mason Rich, I think Vashon Cloquet. There's Melanson Heath. Yeah, there's 3 to 4 to 5 firms throughout the state that do a lot of municipal auditing.
And that's different than a regular?
We don't do any. We don't bid on them. Maybe one day we'll go down that path, but it's an acquired skill that, you know, we've never gone down that path to, you know, we do a lot of not-for-profit auditing. We specialize in Department of Health and Human Service auditing. We've invested a lot of resources into that and continuing education, but we've never done it on the municipality side. And, you know, we wouldn't, if we were to bid, I think you'd throw us out because we'd be your own, you know, the only municipal client you have. So it's hard for us to compare you to Belknap County or, you know, Coos or Grafton. You know, what auditing usually is comparing, you know, different entities. Why is, you know, Carroll County's expense ratio this and Belknap's this and Grafton's this? You know, it gives you a better idea when you're auditing stuff to look at that looks weird at the beginning.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
Have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Do we receive the audit engagement letter from the auditor company that we have now?
When we go out to bid, we'll get the engagement letter.
For the company, what we have now is doing the audit.
Oh,
Do
we
we
have
have-
a
do we-
list of duties that he's going to provide, yeah.
Okay. Can I have a copy
Sure.
of that list?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no problem.
Okay. Again, thank you very much for your time and information sharing with us. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thanks,
you.
JD.
So do you want me to move anything up on the schedule?
No, county attorney
We have-
is here, are you?
No.
No, okay. All right.
Thank you.
So what did you move? What change did you make in the agenda?
We just
So
moved up
we
the
took
9
him-
o'clock
Yeah, we took
appointment.
him out.
Yeah.
So he went.
I think what we would do right now is open it up for public input. Before, we're going to go into non-public session right after this, so if you get any public input, please let us hear now. Anybody? Yes, Mr. Albee?
I think my understanding of why Commissioner Babson would have the accountant and was to explain the auditing process, right? And I think it stems from our recent issues downstairs.
Mhm.
And one part of it that seemed to be glossed over a bit was the controls. You can't, I don't believe, abrogate your responsibility completely to accountants. You need to understand the controls on payroll, the controls on cash receipts and disbursements,
Mhm.
all of your financial controls. The testing that he spoke about needs to be done by the commissioners as well. But also, you need to have your department heads like Kathy, Garry, put in writing what their controls are, and then have those controls, or that system of controls, examined by your accountants to see if it's adequate or if it compares favorably with other counties or other governmental entities. Because from my limited experience here, I don't believe the controls are adequate, but I'm not certain there's an ability to actually put in writing what the controls are.
Mhm.
We tend to do business the way we've always done business, which doesn't mean it's right or wrong, it's just, but it can become lax, which is obviously what happened. So I think the commissioners need to understand what the controls are,
Mhm.
and then from time to time, do a spot audit on their own. You know, how did this check happen? How did this,
Okay.
how did this payroll go? Review a payroll. I remember reviewing payrolls,
Mhm.
and I don't know if you guys do that now, but it's informative.
Okay. Anybody else for public input? Yes, Melissa.
Last week, you read a letter from the visiting nurse in home and healthcare correcting a newspaper article
Right.
where there were some misstatements.
Yep.
The next day, there was a correction printed in the Carroll County Independent, so I just wanted to give you a copy of that so you could with that letter, just so you're aware that it was corrected in the paper too.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Also, I've spent quite a bit of time over the last month or so trying to get to the bottom of why the county has no control over the $4 million DEAS line. And I have some copies of stuff for you that I've been able to get from the Association of Counties as well as the Department of Health and Human Services. There should be, yeah, plenty of copies for everybody and one for me as well. Sorry, I'm just giving to you. Hi. Okay, there we go. Thank you. What I've learned is that over the course of the years, the county used to handle it.
Mhm.
I believe we had a human services department, and that person was responsible for accepting liability for the people that you're paying for.
Right.
Making sure, verifying their residents, following their care, making sure that the county's tax dollars are protected. And then at that certain point, when the state stepped in and said, we'll take it over and we'll just send you a bill.
Yeah.
And then we don't have a human services department anymore. So I assumed that all counties just did that and that was the way it was going to be. What I've since learned is that 3 counties, Hillsborough, Rockingham, and Grafton, continue to maintain a human services department and continue to monitor for their own counties the money that's going out the door. So when the commissioners say that they have absolutely no control over it, it's all the delegation or the state, which we are the state, so there's no difference there. I'm wondering what the commissioners are doing to make sure that the people that we're accepting liability for, we're actually liable for. So that's one of my questions.
That's your question?
Would you repeat that question, please?
Sure. How are the commissioners monitoring the money being paid out to the EAS to make sure that the people that we're accepting liability for, or the state is giving us liability for, actually belong to us and we're actually liable for them? If someone enters into the Medicaid system at, say, 67 and they live till they're 97, we own them for 30 years. And what is the commission doing to make sure that we actually own them in the first place?
Prior to the agreement between the New Hampshire Association of Counties and the Health and Human Service Department, we did do all the checks. We had a human service person. We used to sign them. Commissioners used to sign them to approve that what you're saying was done. When the state took it over, that became the state's responsibility. We did that because there were several agencies that we were paying for, like children and youth, that is done at the state level. That was getting out of hand. We thought it'd be better that we agreed with the state that we would do the Department of Elderly and Adult Services. We would take that on, and they would take everything else as far as being paid from county tax dollars. So we rely on the state to give us those figures. Now, these other 3 counties that you mentioned, have they, in your research, have they found anything wrong with their accounting?
One of the representatives I spoke to said, from a county, I called several counties as well. One said that the first year, that when the program was being sold, that the state was going to take it over. The state basically said, we have a near 0 error rate.
Yeah.
Trust us. Okay. So one of the counties decided not to go that route, and I guess there's a form, it's a liability form for each of these people that you have to agree to accept, or there was at the time.
There was at the time, correct. Yep.
So they held some of those, they denied them, the county denied some of those forms, and tried to work with the state to sort it out, and the state had eliminated their staff that was that go-between because they were taking it over and they were reorganizing. And so basically they weren't willing to work with these individual counties to correct the errors. Those errors between just 2 counties totaled $3 million.
Wow.
I know you're not going to find $1 million out of 4, but even if you found $1, isn't it worth somebody making sure that we're actually liable for these people?
Okay. I guess.
Especially if I could, Carroll County is the fastest aging county in the state, and a lot of people reference the Silver Tsunami report that shows that it's going to keep getting more expensive. We're going to have more people that we're going to be paying for.
Right.
And on one of those spreadsheets, I think it's predicted that in 2015, Carroll County is going to be responsible for almost $5 million. I think it's 4.9.
No.
4.3.
4.3.
There was one that maybe was speaking that Betsy Miller had sent me as well. Sorry, I gave you all mine. Can I come up there and just look at this extra one? There was a number that stuck out. The other piece of that, besides monitoring the people that we actually are responsible for, is right now the New Hampshire Association of Counties is lobbying in Concord as they're putting together the final budget. The governor's budget asks for a substantial increase in the cap, which is the money that the counties are responsible for paying. And there's been a negotiated agreement, but it still substantially increases the cap, according to the information I got from Betsy Miller. And she's been in Concord and she's been trying to work on behalf of the counties, but perhaps some lobbying could be done by the commissioners and our own delegation to try to sort this out. But on the flip side of that, the federal government, it's my understanding, pays 50% of the Medicaid, and then the state's responsible for the other 50%, which it then delegates to the counties to pay.
Right.
If the amount that's owed by the state is not paid for by the counties, it has to be taken out of the state's general fund. So either way, we're paying for it. But how much of that shifting do you want happening from the state down to the individual counties? And do you think the percentage rate and the cap are fair? I am also told the next meeting of the New Hampshire Association is about this.
Yep, exactly. I was just going to say that we're meeting as a group of commissioners, which are responsible for the state Association of Counties budget. And we'll be talking about that on the first Friday of April. I think it's the 5th. It's on the agenda, and we'll be discussing that particular subject.
Are those meetings open to the public?
Sure. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, I'll go ahead.
Melissa, this has bugged me over the years because it seemed to me to be a amount of money that we were assigned to pay, and nobody had any idea why.
And I get that now.
And I think it was during Mr. Albee's term here that this came up again, and one of the things I distinctly remember was the question that we were always told that we paid for people in our county that were in other nursing homes, and we were paid for people that from other counties that were in our nursing home. And that discussion, I clearly remember, that said that the state had gone to some method of averaging it, so they didn't have to track down. Is that correct, Chip, as I recall? They were going to average it out or work some average formula so that they didn't have to chase around for who was where, and then we've got that, I think it was, might have been Robin or Debbie gave us a sheet of paper that averaged it out and showed us that nobody could understand.
My recollection is that it wasn't an averaging scheme that the state came up with. It was the argument that these things average themselves out.
Well, that to me would be an average scheme, but go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, I don't think that, I don't have any recollection of the state coming up with some sort of mathematical formula.
No, that's right.
But I do remember the discussion being, sure, you're going to pay for some, but then they're going to pay for some, and it all kind of averages out. I think it was more of a colloquial discussion as opposed to
But then we were told that how the state was doing it at that time. It wasn't an idea they were thinking about, they were doing it that way. And this is all part of it, Ms. Melissa. There doesn't seem to be anybody that can give you a straight answer on this subject, no matter where you go. I called up and talked to the head person in Health and Human Services, and he said, we get the counties together and we come in and we discuss how it's going to be apportioned and
How they are going to apportion.
And then I talked to the people that were there, and they say, that isn't what happened. They came in and threw a piece of paper in front of us and told us that's what we're going to pay. And you just can't get a straight answer anywhere.
Do you have a copy of the contract that you signed with the state?
I can find one, yeah.
Okay, I'd like
I'm
to.
surprised the New Hampshire Association of Counties, Betsy Miller didn't provide one.
She was talking to me from some side room because she just stepped out of a budget session to take my call, so
okay.
I'm not putting it back on her, but I would request a copy of that contract if I could get that.
Yeah.
And it's extremely complicated. It's not a matter of this is how much this person, it costs to care for this person, here's your half, pay it. There are credits, there are deductions, there are percentages, there are formulas. It's no wonder that it's complicating and nobody wants to try to figure it out. But
Yeah.
If we could just pull away from that complication and that mathematical nightmare and just focus on the fact of whether Carroll County is paying for the people that we're actually responsible for,
Mm-hmm.
and just get to that, to the root of it,
Okay.
I would ask the commissioners to
All right.
figure out a way to do that.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one thing, you said the meetings are open to the public, so it's not only for county employees.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all the taxpayers can attend?
Yeah.
Everyone can attend?
Yeah. Damon?
So it sounds like different counties have different methods for accounting for this DEAS line, or they do it differently. Hillsborough might do it differently than we do it. Do we have the ability to sort of just renegotiate our contract, maybe?
We have to pay for them one way or the other.
Right.
I think Melissa's point is make sure that we're paying for those that deserve to be paid,
Right.
rather than some fictitious name out there that we're paying for that we probably shouldn't be paying for.
I get that, but at some point, we agreed to take the elderly, and the state agreed to take everything else.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no way that we can.
And I believe there was a cap set on that, and that cap just keeps.
Is there any way the state can say, okay, we don't like this deal anymore? Or is there any way the county can say, we don't like this deal, and maybe the other counties can agree that they don't like the deal and renegotiate and start from scratch? Because nobody understands the system as it is now.
That could be discussed on the first Friday down in Concord. I believe that's what's on the agenda. Yeah.
Starting
I think
from
all the
scratch.
all the counties would have to agree, because it was that type of an arrangement that was made with the state, that all counties had to do it.
It'd be interesting to see if that agreement had an escape clause.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is it
Okay.
at 10? The meeting?
Yeah.
10 o'clock.
Yep, go ahead.
Damon, one of the reasons it's so confusing is you say, can we find out who's, if we're really paying for those? As Chip said, I called it an averaging scheme, he called it something else. They're gonna say, well, we might be paying for a couple of theirs, you might be paying for a couple of, they might be paying for a couple of yours. You can't pin it down, to my knowledge, to any individuals, which makes it more difficult. The other part of that, Damon, when we made this agreement, part of it was the state would take over the youth services, remember? Would take over youth services obligations, which were fairly substantial for us at that time.
Yep.
We were paying $250 a day or something like that for the kids down in the Concord juvenile.
Couple of points. First off, unwinding the deal isn't without cost. I mean, essentially, we have half an employee that monitor, or not even half an employee monitoring that department now. If the county were to take back that obligation, it's not without cost. Secondly, the fact that we could never get an audit, and I asked any number of times, I'm sure you've asked, on who it is that we're covered, is troublesome. And I think when you go to that meeting on the 6th,
Friday, the 5th.
or the 5th, you might want to color your thinking, for those of us who've lived here a good long time, with the meta scam issues that were happening in the 80s, late 70s through the 80s, almost into the 90s, where Governors Sanu and Gregg, et cetera, were balancing the state budget by tapping into this fund. I mean, the federal government sends 50% of costs down.
Mm-hmm.
The other 50 they're transferring over to the county. If they're not willing to give you an accounting on that money,
We don't pay.
I'm jaundiced enough to think that perhaps part of that money is going somewhere other than to the benefit of the Medicaid recipients that we're responsible for.
We could be very aggressive and not pay the bill until we get something in writing as to where that money is going. We'd have a lawsuit with the state.
And it may come down to a lawsuit.
Melissa?
This was the other sheet, I only have one. This was sent to me by Kathy Garry, I believe this is the sheet that you get that tells you how much to pay.
Mhm.
And this is the sheet that shows Carroll County being at $4.7 million in 2015. So I don't know how that does or doesn't match up with what came from Betsy Miller, but that's what you've got right now that you have to pay.
2015, I think that's the operative number, if I can interrupt. I mean, you're looking at the 2013 budget at 4.3.
But they're getting ready to set the 14-15, right?
Right.
In conference. So if the budget takes effect, that spreadsheet, I believe, is what you'll have to pay.
Mhm.
So,
Yep.
or what we'll have to pay.
All right.
And the key, one of the things there is the net county cap proposed statewide increase biennium to a biennium is $13 million. No accounting for it, just, that's it.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. Were you going to change the subject?
No, just one more on this
Okay.
BEAS. So if you decide that you're not going to pay the bill because you're not going to get an accounting of what you're paying for, is that in effect holding the Medicaid people hostage?
Oh, I don't believe so. The state is responsible for them.
I thought we were responsible for them.
We're responsible for paying a portion.
Right, but if we
Of
don't
the
pay
total
that
state.
portion, are they not going to get that portion?
I guess I'm not going to go there. We'll know more about it on Friday.
One more quick thing on this. You mentioned that and we know that the state took over youth services in
Yep.
exchange for us taking on the elderly services. Is it possible to get some information or a total on what the state has paid out in the last year, 3 years for youth services, considering how fast our county is aging?
And my understanding
And the youth
is,
population has dropped?
my understanding is that the portion for the youth has gone down. When we signed the agreement, it was continuing to go up like $250 a day. And for some reason or other, I haven't seen it in writing, but my understanding is that that portion that the state is paying is going down.
One last thing.
Go ahead, Mr. Albee, and then we're going to cut it off.
Okay. Whereas the state is paying the youth portion, and under the expansion of Medicaid for the Affordable Care Act, that is going to go away. The federal government's assuming 100% and then 95% of that cost. The county is not getting any benefit from that. So the state will end up getting 100% of the benefit. So if the conditions of the contract have changed that substantially, I think you can renegotiate the whole thing.
All right, good point. Okay. Do you have any further questions?
Do you have room for more public comment on a different subject?
No, go ahead.
Okay, 2 quick things. It's my understanding that the county has lost 2 key people, the MDS coordinator and the human resources director. Can you confirm that
We have no comment on that,
on either one?
either one.
Okay. And lastly, I have a question. It's something that's been brewing for the last couple of weeks about whether or not jail inspections ever existed and if they were in files in a drawer in the commissioner's office. Last Wednesday, a file marked jail was delivered by Commissioner Kenney to the Sheriff's Department and then forwarded to the Human Resources Director. I had a right-to-know request filed to look at anything that had been in the desk, any files. And so I received a phone call that a file had arrived and would I like to look at it. I came to the complex and have verified that a file marked jail containing several jail-related folders was in fact returned to the complex. And I would just ask for a comment on that. The file, I showed pictures of the files to a former commissioner who's verified that that is her handwriting. So it appears that a file was taken from the office and it was returned kind of through the back door. Would any of you care to comment on that?
I think that is the allegation. I will send my response letter to the paper, and nothing was taken up of the county.
For people that may not read the paper, shame on them, but if you don't, would you like to say what you might say in the paper to the public here now?
No, I will post it.
So the accusation is, did you give something to the sheriff's department to give to?
There was a right to know filed, and I will say I will put it in the paper. And I took it out my locked file cabinet, and I give it to someone to give it to Janice. Janice was not here last Wednesday.
Right.
So when I came and I took it out my locked file cabinet, she was not here, and I waited for a while. I hear she's not coming, and I give it to somebody to hand it, so somebody can look at it.
I was previously told there was nothing in the drawer except for magazines. So if that file has been in the drawer this whole time, why was it withheld? I don't believe, Commissioner Kenney. I believe that that file left this building and was returned to the Sheriff's Department. And why did it have to be done that way? You file a right to know request. It doesn't just go to the Human Resources Director. It's directed to the Board of Commissioners. I don't write my request to the Human Resources Director only. It's the responsibility of the commissioners and the clerk, who is responsible for the safekeeping of the county's records.
So where is the safe then? The county never have a safe
Point
to
of
lock
order,
us up. I already.
with documentation to make these allegations.
Yeah, I know.
Are we gonna have a,
They probably went to my
a
drawers
double
and see
standard
what
for
they're
people?
saying.
I haven't called on you
Well, I
yet,
made
Mr.
a
Brown.
point of order.
Well,
They
You're out
probably
of
went
order.
to my drawers, and I have no comments. I will send my letter. Let people make false allegation and write trash in the paper. I mean, there is no county safe that it is locked. They can say they leave. They can say anything why they leave there or not. I inherited drawers there what never had a key. People coming in and out the office. I don't know. Every time I come, paper is gone. It's getting less and less. I see everything is in disarray every time. I had to break in also.
Point of
If there
order.
was a safe, we didn't have this. People can claim so much. There was this in, there was that in.
I'm
They're
going to
going in and out in my drawers and looking every time what is in it. I know that every week.
I'll
in
make
looking
one
what is in
further
my
comment,
drawers.
and that is that we never had this problem prior to 2011. Nobody ever broke into our office. Nobody ever took anything home that I'm aware of. Everything was very smooth in proper organization. So that's my comment. You have a point of order now, Mr. Brown?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
where's the documentation of the allegation? But yet, Mr. Chairman, you allow this individual to continue with the undocumented allegation. Why is there a double standard here?
We don't have a double standard.
Well,
We've asked Commissioner Kenney to prove certain items, and she hasn't come forward.
Well, wait a minute, this individual...
No, wait a minute.
Wait a minute, where's the reporter just made unsubstantiated allegations. Where's the documented proof of this? She just called Commissioner Kenney a liar.
If you
Where's
read,
the documented proof?
if you read the paper, the Conway Daily Sun, Commissioner Webster stated in there that she left documents in that desk drawer when she left as commissioner. Commissioner Albee took over her desk. He can speak for himself. I believe he has stated that he had left that there in his desk. So that's the proof that I have.
Well, the real proof would be in regards to these jail inspections, that the Attorney General should have each and every copy of each and every 6 months for the jail inspection from the last, whenever, 30, 50 years.
Yep.
And how come the Attorney General doesn't have them?
You asked, did you read the paper?
No, I
From
didn't.
Commissioner Webster? All right, then end the comment. Anybody else? Quickly.
It seems to me that it's kind of a bad practice for commissioners when they leave office to just sort of leave documentation
And
in
then
their
leave it come back
individual
and
desks,
use.
rather than bring it to, say, the central office. I mean, is there any policy about when a commissioner leaves office and is replaced by another commissioner that they transfer their individual files
Always.
into sort of the central repository of information? Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Most things are left in the desk. In most cases, all commissioners have a copy of it.
So how does a new commissioner coming in know what's important and what they can clean out? It seems to me that the policy should be when a commissioner leaves office, everything gets transferred out to the business office. That's not there already.
For the record,
Okay.
I didn't clean out any documents.
Okay, Commissioner
If there
Babson.
was a county safe, we didn't have this problem.
Commissioner
We have
Babson has
important
the floor.
documents and he put it in.
Go ahead, Commissioner Babson.
Thank you. When I took office, Daymond, Commissioner Sullivan had left everything in her desk. I went through, and I'm still going through it, and if I think it's important, it doesn't do me any good to keep budgets back to 2000 and whatever it was, 8 or 6 or 7, so I throw those out. But if it appeared the least bit important, I gave them to Kathy to make sure there was a duplicate. And I haven't removed anything.
It just seems like that should be the policy going forward, or just some kind of procedure. Because how, if you're just a new commissioner, how do you know what you just want to clean the desk the way you see fit, I'd imagine. There's nothing to tell you to do otherwise.
Something that we seem to be missing here, and that is that the subject of trust. We have to trust each other. We can't be overlooking somebody else's shoulder all the time. Commissioners are elected by the people to represent the people. Hopefully the commissioner does an honest job. And if not, and if it can be proven that the commissioner didn't do that job, then that's subject to delegation and further investigations. I firmly believe in trust. We have to trust our department heads. We have to trust each other as a team. We do have some problems, understandably, but we try to trust each other. So, last comment over here.
It's been historically a very collegial system. I offered on 3 different occasions to go through the various things that I had from my days as a commissioner with Commissioner Kenney, when she was commissioner-elect. Whatever timing reasons, we weren't able to get together. But that said, I hadn't left the county. I remember calling Marge Webster on any number of occasions to ask her about something that I might have been going through to get her background on that. And that's the way it's always worked. I think that's a pretty collegial system which works. To move things around is a little bit.
Okay, and we'll end public comment. We'll have public comment at the end of our meeting, at the end of the department head meeting. I'd like Commissioner Babson to report on the meeting that was, not the meeting, but yes, regarding the biomass event that took place on Friday.
Excuse me. I attended it. There were, I'm going to guess, 25 or 30 people there from both private and public enterprises. They began with a short talk in the conference room after they had to get together to introduce and meet each other. Then went over to the old nursing home and looked at the burner, and there were an awful lot of questions. And then we went back to the nursing home and had a film presentation by the outfit that put it in. Frankly, I was surprised. They handed out a sheet of paper. There must be 20, maybe more, public facilities in this state that are now burning pellets. And Effingham, Tufton Borough, Winnisquam, Hanover. I can't even remember all of them, but I was really surprised at how this method of heating buildings has taken root. I thought some of the interesting discussion was the difference between pellets and chips. There are several places now burning chips instead of pellets. I can remember when the discussion came up here 3 or 4 years ago, one of the problems with the chips was it was going to take too much space and too big a building to put it in. They had a couple of slides of the newer technology. The buildings don't look much bigger than a 2 or 3 car garage, and back in with a live bottom and dump it into the hopper. So there's been a couple of those that have decided to try chips. One of the points of the chips are it keeps the money local, even more so than the pellets. The pellets are made over or come from a company in Jaffrey, but the chips come from everywhere in the county. It was a very, very, very interesting discussion. There was some interest in much smaller public buildings, and that led to residential. And the company has developed a real small burner for your home that's a pellet system with a bagged bulk container in your basement that feeds it by auger. It really was it was interesting, and it was a good turnout, and I think the people really enjoyed it and learned a lot.
Any questions from anybody regarding that? Okay. We have minutes to approve.
Last week. March 20, 2013.
Any corrections to the minutes? Of March 20th? What's that?
I didn't see anyone I went over.
Do you have any corrections?
I have something. Let me see. Where it is? Yes, on page 1, it said John Rich was asked to put internet at the Superior Court building. I don't know if he was asked. I thought he was asked to put wireless in. I believe they have internet there.
No, I heard Robin talk.
What did they say? Did they say this?
I believe he said that.
He said.
Or she said that.
He said they're going to put internet in.
No, Robin asked John Rich if he would look at the possibility of connecting it to the Superior Court building.
Yeah, but to put internet, I thought that they talk about to put in wireless there.
Well, he was supposed to report back to her as to what the possibilities were, what it would cost. He didn't know at the time as to what is over there at the courthouse.
Okay, that's the only thing. That
If
he said wireless or internet, I thought that he said wireless, but.
Commissioner Kenney's correct. I think the discussion was wireless.
Okay.
The internet system that's at the court is a closed system. It's not hooked up to the internet, if you will. It's just from court to court, or from the AOC to the court. It's not, a lawyer can't go in there and log in and do any research, so.
That's why we asked for wireless.
Okay.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes of March 20th?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes.
March 20, 2013. Yep.
Second it. Any further discussion? If not, all those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And so voted. Okay, at this point in time, we're going to go into non-public session, and we'll be meeting across the hall in that small room. so that nothing has to be disturbed here. You're welcome to stay here, have a cup of coffee and a muffin or whatever.
For $1.
For $1. And as soon as we complete that non-public, we'll be back in session again.
You cannot just go, you need to
Go
make
ahead,
a motion
go ahead.
and
Make a motion. I make a motion that we go into non-public for personnel.
Okay, second by,
I'll second
Babson.
okay. Commissioner Babson,
it. Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen.
Yes,
Commissioner Kenney.
so voted. Come up and sit at the table, please.
Oh, do you have the agenda?
Yeah, sure.
Oh,
Did you bring up some?
Did you have some of the chip? Okay.
Any more, Kat?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting back to order. We did have a non-public session, and we did seal the minutes. And most likely, we'll go back in a non-public session after this meeting is over for personnel reasons. This is the first of meeting of department heads that I am aware of over the years that I've been here. I think it was suggested by a delegation member to do this, to share ideas, to perhaps improve communications or what have you. I think you've each seen an agenda, or were given an agenda, and I'll start, but I think this is an open meeting, so anytime you have a question or a comment, please feel free to express it. We now have a first item on the agenda was a personal reference guide. We now have that. It's being printed. If you don't have a copy, you'll be getting a copy shortly. This is approved and signed by all three commissioners. And so it's something that you want to be familiar with and share it with other people in your departments. Any questions regarding that handbook? I should have stated that we're going to quit at 11 o'clock no matter wherever we are. An hour is plenty, and we haven't decided when we'd have another meeting, but it won't be on a monthly basis. It may not be quarterly, but maybe twice a year or whatever we decide. But anyway, go ahead, Andy.
My only question is that when the handbook is passed out to everybody, they will sign?
They'll sign it, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there a review process so you can update it on a regular basis? Has there been something established so that as you look at it and things may not be what
We
you
haven't
intended?
decided that, but it's a good point, and we did say in there that it's a guide and that it can be reviewed and changed whenever necessary, and we'd have to notify everybody that
Sure.
the changes were made.
Okay, good.
Okay?
In fact, Robin, when I voted for it, I specifically said I wouldn't vote for it if it wasn't a working item that could be changed on a regular basis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Captain Fowler.
Your sick time and vacation time is based off days. Are you referring to an 8-hour day? It doesn't
Yeah.
specify hours, so are you basing
Yeah,
it off
you're
8
at
hours?
12 hours, right?
10, so,
10.
yeah. My union guys are 12 hours.
Okay.
I work 10-hour days, but I just want to make sure that when you reference days, you're equating that to an 8-hour day.
8-hour
Okay.
day. Yep. Yep.
And the question is, no matter what you work, it's converted over basically to a 8-hour day.
But you reference that you can only occur 20 vacation days. So I need to know if that's 160 hours or if is that 200 hours for someone like me. That's why I asked the question. So,
Let me understand. You work 10 hours a day?
correct.
And you're on hourly wage, right?
No, I'm salary.
You are salary, okay.
So that's why I just want to make sure I know how
It'd
many.
be based on an 8-hour
Yep,
day.
that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes, Will.
Question on the, not that I have a lot of questions, but I think that some of the employees I've heard on the complex asking a lot of questions about the article we read in the paper about the Facebook comment one that you have in there. I don't know the whole thing, but that maybe that there should be some good clarification on that policy, because there's a lot of employees asking about it.
You're talking about a social media?
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of employees on the complex wanting some clarification and some more knowledge that I've heard on the complex, that might be something that just a little attention for the employees' clarifications.
Okay. We'll get back to that.
Okay.
Commissioner Babson's going after Debbie. Yeah, was an article in the paper written by Daymond regarding that,
Oh, I missed that.
and we'll discuss that when she comes back.
Oh, when was that thing?
A couple days ago.
I think it was last week, maybe at the end of the week. Something like that possible.
While we're waiting for her to come in, let's go to the next topic, and it's a handbook for budget line items. The delegation, a representative Schmidt from Wolfeboro has suggested and recommended that we have a handbook that would definitely clarify what's under travel, what's under equipment, are computers under equipment or under the IT. And so I've asked Kathy Garry to put together a handbook, everything, every line item in a loose leaf notebook that would explain in detail what each item is. I don't care whether it's wages or whether it's telephone bills or whatever. We need to have clarification as to exactly what it is so that all departments report the same thing under a particular line item. The one that has raised issues was computers. The new computers purchased under the IT line item, or is it under new equipment? Okay, so we need to get that squared away.
Yeah, so I'll probably go to each one of you, because there's some that are just really specific to your department for your needs. And, you know, some of them are pretty straightforward, but some of them are, you know, geared to specific. So I'll ask everybody. And it's just a little narrative.
Debbie, you want to sit up here, please?
Commissioner,
Yeah.
I've already always done that. I've always given a breakdown of what.
Yes, you have. Yes,
and
you
I
have.
usually have less questions as a result. So I would think it would be in the best interest of every department
Yep.
head to have this. It clarifies what exactly is in that line item.
Right, right.
And that was something that was started by Lillian.
It comes up almost yearly as to, is it in this line item? And in the subcommittees, there were two different subcommittees that we attended, and one did it one way, the other did it the other way. So we need to get that straightened out. Debbie, the question has come up regarding the personnel reference guide, regarding the social item that was in there, social media and networking policy. And the question came from Will. Will, you want to state that question again?
I didn't have I don't really know the policy that well myself yet. I just glanced through it, and I've heard what was written in the paper, and I've heard a lot of talk on the campus from different employees that tend to be concerned or unfamiliar with it and want to get familiar, and I just suggested that somehow we try to educate the employees or reassure them of what the policy is all about, and to that nature is basically was kind of my question or observance.
We're absolutely planning some roundtable training on that. There are a couple of policies that have been either newly written or rewritten that need to be explained, I think, to the employees of the county so that they do have an understanding of what is expected of them and what will be considered out-of-line conduct.
I just was curious that was going to happen, because I've heard a lot of people talking and wondering.
We intend for it to happen. The details of how and when have not been worked out yet.
Oh, thank you.
Are we talking about their private life? I don't have any social media going on within my...
Not in the private life.
Part of that policy, but it's talking about their private life and what they can put on their own personal. We have
That's
that power
I
to
think that's the
control.
major question that's
Right.
being raised.
We have that power.
Well, the important thing to understand is we're not limiting anyone's ability to do anything. With the policy, we're making them aware of the fact that what they do may be actionable if they're acting irresponsibly.
And if they identify themselves as a county employee, and it's sort of interesting that the supervisors somehow could be held liable for that, which
I'm not going to be liable for what they do in their private life.
That was
Well,
kind of my concern too.
that comes into play when we have a supervisor who is fraternizing inappropriately with subordinates outside of the workplace, and they're getting together on things like Facebook and Twitter.
I'd be careful with that. I
And-
fraternize with my subordinates all the time.
Which
You
is
know.
fine, but there tend to be from time to time comments that are made in those social networking sites
Yep.
that can be considered very offensive and even harassing. And if a supervisor is friends with someone and they see that kind of conduct and then fail to take action, and that behavior creates a hostile environment in the workplace, that's when there's a need for the supervisor to be aware of that conduct and to step in and take action, or they could be considered liable.
Good luck. Good luck.
Is that something, Robin, you could do some further investigating on regarding that particular policy?
No.
No.
I've heard
Would
this,
you-
some scuttlebutt about union people at the nursing home that are very upset about this. So that's kind of why I asked if things were going to be educated, because I've heard some people over there are kind of upset about that. I mean, and I was concerned because I don't even have a Facebook account, so, you know, my people were saying stuff, I'm not even there to witness it, and am I going to be in trouble?
No.
That's kind of unclarification that I think seems to be the feeling of a lot of employees, is we're just unsure of who's responsible and that kind of stuff, and that's why I was asking for the clarification type seminars that you want to set up.
Sure. And in a case like yours, well, we don't expect that every supervisor is going to be aware of what all of their employees are doing. All we're asking that they do is be very, very cautious
Right.
when they're friending people, who they're friending, and what it is that they're hitting maybe a like button about or something like that, because it can be considered actionable, not necessarily by the county, but in a civil suit.
Right.
And people need to be aware of that.
Well, I'm not disputing it, I'm just letting you know what,
Yeah.
kind of the concern that I've heard.
Yeah, no, we don't anticipate that, I mean, for instance, in the case of someone like you who doesn't even have a Facebook account, I don't have one either.
Right.
You can't be held accountable for what you don't know.
Right.
But when you're friending someone, there's an expectation that you are checking that site every once in a while, that you are aware or have an awareness of what it is that's happening. And if you're hitting a like button or you're forwarding messages, or you're hitting dislike for something that someone puts out there, and then again that hostility comes into the workplace and begins to affect an employee's ability to do their job constructively and efficiently, that is when it becomes an issue for the supervisor.
Well, on Friday, I sent out a clarifying piece to all nursing home staff members. Essentially, the concern that I was hearing, they were afraid that administration staff of the county was somehow going to be monitoring their social media.
No,
exactly.
And I wanted to let them know, absolutely echoing what Deb said,
I'm not
it's
doing
not at all the intent, but should something happen, I guess I used as the example that, if three people are throwing rocks at a church and you stand next to them, you're going to be thought of as being part of the problem.
Right.
So but if you're not aware or otherwise connected, there's nothing to worry about, and nobody's out there looking for problems at all.
Precisely.
Well, it puts the supervisor in a position of having to be out there looking.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Actually,
Because
it cautions them.
If you're friended on Facebook with somebody and something happens.
And you're aware.
It's not my problem.
Well, if from the examples, it sounds more like even
like-
if you're just a friend, there's a presumption that you're aware. And I think it
It's
goes
like
a
we
little
have to
too
be
far.
looking on the outside of what they do on their personal space. I
Yeah.
consider it personal space.
We're not asking you to be aware of what's happening out there. We're not asking anyone to monitor. We're asking people who do have accounts like that to be very cautious. And really, it's a cautionary statement regarding fraternization in a huge way.
I would not want to discourage anybody from having a website, Facebook, or whatever. The more that we can get out to people within the county, the better. I just hope that it's truthful, that it has documentation as to what people are saying. I think it's great to get the word out of what's going on here at the county, but let's make sure that it's correct when it goes out. That's where we get into a problem, okay? Go ahead.
My feeling is, as county department heads and whatever, we all have a website.
Mm-hmm.
That's our information line to the people, not personal Facebook, which I absolutely abhor. I don't have a computer at home, and I don't want to know what my people are doing on their off time, as long as they're not sabotaging what I'm overlooking. And
Okay, that's what we're looking at.
what they're quibbling between each other, whatever, I don't want to know about it.
Yeah. Okay.
As long as it doesn't affect my department.
All right. Go ahead. Okay. All right. Kronos. Are you up to date on the Kronos system, Debbie? No?
I am.
You are?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I was working with Pat just yesterday to get his new hires set up
Okay.
so that they could punch.
Okay. Problems with Kronos. Anybody have problems with Kronos? And if you have problems with them, let us know what they are so we can get them straightened out.
I think
You're shaking your head yes.
I think this is probably like the perfect opportunity with Kronos because we're going into where everyone's wages are changing because of the contracts. So that when I put that information in, I was told that it could all interface into the Kronos so that the supervisors wouldn't have to go in and update the employees on the Kronos side, that it would happen, so we just do it once. So I was told that that's what can happen. I don't know for sure. You're shaking your head, Deb. Yeah. The other thing is the employees with the payroll system and with the Kronos system, they need to be in there. If they're a per diem person in the payroll system, the Kronos system has to have the same kind of job. It's because we cannot have people that are per diem accruing or vice versa. If someone is put in the payroll system that has an 80-hour pay period, they need to be done. There has to be some real caution taken into consideration that everyone is put in both sides exactly the way their job describes them. Right.
Is there anyone here that's not on the Kronos system?
I don't think myself. I mean, the offices, dispatches are.
Okay.
I don't.
You get paid,
the
right?
deputies aren't using it, but I think Teresa's tasked to put the deputies into it.
Right.
So, why isn't he on the Kronos
Because
system?
he's salary. He's an elected official.
My 1 and 2 are not in.
Because he's elected.
And you're not on it either?
No.
You're
Okay.
not.
No, and my attorneys aren't on it.
You're not on it. Your attorney's not on it.
No. I mean, because they come and, they work at home, it's just, they can't.
Salary.
My understanding of the setup was that originally it had been intended for salaried personnel to be on the Kronos system so that it could act as a timekeeping mechanism, but there was some concern about whether or not salaried individuals on the Kronos system would then do their 40 hours and clock out without regard to work that may need to be done above and beyond that 40 hours. And the decision was ultimately made not to put them in.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, that's pretty much what I was going to ask Dominic. Mr. Sheriff, how do you know if one of your deputies is going to be working up north today, so he's obviously not going to come all the way down here to punch in? What happens?
Right,
what
the executive
happens to him?
secretary is tasked with putting in the deputies on her own as far as, because they have to log in with dispatch when they go 10-1, sign on duty, and then sign off duty. And she'll have to use that log to hand put into Kronos.
Well, can you, if he signs off today at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and she says, geez, I forgot to do that, what happens tomorrow morning? Can she back set it to?
I guess, yes.
to yesterday at 4 o'clock.
You can put in any time you want on any date. You can edit it.
Thank you, Becky.
Okay. You had some other comments. Go
Right.
ahead.
The question with salary is not only would they clock out early, but the problem is people that go over their 80 hours, then you show a lot of built-up time and stuff like that.
Mhm.
We can go in, like if I go to a DON meeting, I can put in that I went 4 hours, 4 hours. It's not locked. So you can, under salary, show that you're in the, my concern is when you run a Kronos, it's nice for security because it shows you everybody that's supposed to be in that building. As they clock in, you can run a list of everyone who's in any building in this building once they log in.
Mhm.
So if I'm in as a salary, it will show me in the building, but I may be at a DON meeting, so we have that issue that we have to address. The other thing we're having, because we have so many varieties at the nursing home, is I still can't plug in M&As. You know, if it's a scheduled M&A, that's great, but now all my LNAs have to take 1 day a month who are M&As and become an LNA to meet their LNA requirements for the state. So then you have to manually go in and change all that so the pay, you know, goes correctly. Transitioning. We have to transition everybody. I think there's still some behind-the-scene work that needs to be done by Kronos. We talked about this. I've got pay codes for holidays, but I can't put in a pay code for, you know, an M&A or a July 4th holiday. We have to still go in and type in a comment what holiday is being used. So you can't run a holiday report out of it. You have to run a comments report and then hand count what holidays they've used. So I think we still need some work on the Kronos side.
She's correct. At this point, nearly everybody in the county is actively punching and punching regularly. The feedback that I've gotten is that there isn't a whole lot in the way of exceptions that everybody's needing to do. But there is some behind the scenes work that still needs to be done.
Are you aware of trying to get the gentleman from Kronos to come to one of our meetings?
I was not, but that's certainly
Okay,
something.
we're
You're
trying-
talking about Bob
We're trying to get him
Phalange?
to come to try to straighten out some of these questions.
You looking for Bob
So,
Phalange?
yes. So if you could arrange that, that'd be great. Do you have your?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Janice isn't here, I'd ask her, is there a way that each department that's responsible for their people in Kronos to have a license to be able to go in there and add people or take away people? Because if Deb's not around, if she's on vacation and I have new people that start, we just ran into this problem. I have to wait until she comes back to be able to get them into our payroll system. I asked and it said that we only have 3 licenses. So is there a way that each person in the department that's responsible for Kronos, that one person, to have the access to be able to add people in?
I think that's something we could probably discuss.
Can you do that? You can't do that. Do you have a license?
Well, no, because I thought at the nursing home.
Yeah, I can't, we have to have more than 3 licenses.
Right,
I
and
don't,
you've been-
I think only 3 people can be in the system at a time or it shuts you out. But yes, my people are trained how to
Yeah.
input a new employee
gonna
and
say
stuff, and then Deb can go in
Okay.
and check to make sure we've got everything correct.
And Pat, I don't know.
We had
Pat.
asked Janice, and she has said that, because it took us 4 days to get our people in, and she had stated that we had just asked if we could have access to it, so we could add the people in, and then HR could verify it, and she stated that we couldn't have a license for it, to be able to do
We'll
that.
find out.
Okay.
Okay, good point. Go ahead.
The only other problem we're having is connection problems, because we went from doing a VPN connection to this web-based connection, and it drops and freezes us all the time and locks us out. So if it's true that we only have the 3 license, my scheduler is in there constantly, almost for an 8-hour day. So we may have to, if it's only 3, we may have to purchase this, since we've got more people going in it, another license.
Okay, we'll look into that.
What did you call that, a VPN?
We used to tie in by a VPN, which is virtual
Okay.
network, and now he's got it
Go
so
through
we
the web.
hook in through the web, and it's not nearly as nice because it freezes you and locks you out all the time and drops you off so that you can't reach the database.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Excuse me. Becky, is this a in-house IT problem, or is this a Kronos problem?
I think because of the licensure issue, he opted to have us go web-based, which was fine, but I don't know he doesn't quite understand why it keeps locking us out of the database, but it could be just that it's a license issue. If there's 3 people already in there, we can never see who's in the system. my scheduler is in there, you know, for 8 hours a day. So that, if that's true, we've only got 3 licenses. That's one license that's occupied 8 hours. Kathy has to get in on the payroll side, and then Deb goes in to put, you know, HR stuff in, so that you've eaten up 3 licenses real quick. So it may be a licensing issue, I don't know, we'll look into it.
Okay. Well, I think we ought to have Deb make that a #1 question, to find out, call Kronos and find out why this is happening.
Okay. And also, when this gentleman from Kronos comes, you'll all be invited back to ask questions and get this thing straightened out. We've been going on this now for 3 years, and it's time that we got it straight. Any further questions on Kronos or comments? If not, evaluations. We see this as a 3-step process. One, the employees would, let's say a supervisor is being evaluated. The employees under that supervisor would evaluate that supervisor. The supervisor would do a self-evaluation, and then the person that's responsible for that supervisor, whoever that supervisor reports to, would also do an evaluation. So it's a 3-step process, and then it goes under review under the department heads if that's your wishes. We are waiting for a final form for the employee evaluation of the supervisor. We've got the other 2 ready to go, and once the 3rd portion is in there, then we'll go with that kind of a system. I would hope that people would be evaluated on their anniversary date, so that everything doesn't come all at once. By looking at the evaluation date, it might spread it out more so that that can happen. We will be doing evaluations on most of you here, except for the elected officials. And we'll be following the same process. Raises could be attached to the evaluations. And anybody that's on probation would also definitely fall under that. And those employees that are on probation, when their 6 months is up, that's the time when you should be doing your evaluations. Okay. Any questions? Yep, go ahead.
Evaluations are 90 days according to our union contract.
90 days, okay.
For probation.
Okay. Whenever that probation time is up, that's when it, or just prior to that, that should be done. Yes?
You having employees evaluate elected officials?
No.
So it's really...
Yes. What?
Okay.
Well,
go ahead.
So then
I'm just
Annie and Dominic aren't involved in this at all.
County
Or
attorney.
Robin.
But we will be evaluating the employees.
You'll be evaluating your
Yes.
employees, yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Thank
Yep.
They get a shot at you in November.
Now, is this on top of evaluations that we may already be doing in-house? I mean, we...
You know, if we could make it
customarily do
uniform
our
throughout
own.
the whole complex, it would help. Because if you're going to terminate somebody in dispatch, ultimately the commissioners become responsible for that person when they're terminated, and we need to look at the evaluations, the last evaluation at least, to see how that person was performing. We don't do that with deputies, but we could do it with people in dispatch. Okay? You agree to that, or you don't agree to it?
I mean, it's...
No.
Right, right. I mean,
I'll speak up for you, Dominic. I
don't
disagree.
agree with it.
Yeah.
To a point. I know there is a court case that says otherwise at this point, but
Okay.
again, it's open to interpretation. But you're saying you're going to use it for possibly raise evaluations, which I totally disagree.
Well, that union is not
right
involved in
So I
that.
mean, I think most of the agencies are unionized or have set up as far as how their raises are obtained anyway. So
Yep, yep. It may not affect that, but it may deal with any promotions or those kinds of things,
Yeah.
or any discipline action taken. I mean, we have a lot of disciplinary actions that are taken, and we need to ask, what's the last evaluation? We need to be truthful with those evaluations. And I think the most important thing on evaluation is, how can that employee improve themselves? In the comments that are written in there, should they take additional courses or recommend that they do this or do that to improve their performance, or maybe improve themselves personally and move on to another job somewhere. I just think it's something that is important, and I think that's probably the most important in the evaluation, as to how they can improve themselves.
I mean, we already do that type of evaluation, as far as their goals and what the supervisor
Right.
recommends and what they would like to see themselves go to obtain that
Yep.
goal. So,
Is this based on their job description?
yeah, I mean, it's just based on what we've come up with for an evaluation, yes.
Okay.
Way of
All right.
doing things, and
Could we
I
take a
know-
look at that? Could you share your evaluation form with us? Okay. Okay, any other questions regarding that? Yes.
I understand what you guys are trying to do, but I also ask that you guys have a clear policy that states what these evaluations are going to be used for, and if they're going to be used for raises. And I'm sure with the sheriff, we evaluate our people annually as well, but it's geared towards their duties and responsibilities at the facility. So your general evaluation really isn't going to do us any good. We already have that in place that I can send to you as well.
Okay.
But you're going to be evaluating people on different criteria than what I'm going to evaluate my staff on.
All right.
So now we're kind of
Share that
doubling,
with us.
we're going to double the process of the evaluations.
I actually do support what Sheriff Ricciardi and Captain Fowler are saying. The job requirements of the job requirements of a sheriff's deputy or a dispatcher vary enormously from the job descriptions of an MNA or an LNA, and by virtue of that, the job description that's going to fairly and equitably evaluate someone's performance has to be specific to that job.
I agree.
But I think the point here was that we sort of use the same format as in self-eval, supervisory eval, and then goal setting, because the evaluation forms we use now don't do that.
Yeah, the general format of a 360 review can be used all the way around, but the questions do have to be facility and job specific.
Any further questions on evaluations? Okay, next item on the agenda was the performance audit. The delegation has appropriated $20,000 to do a performance audit. My personal feeling is that they're not going to be able to do the whole county. They may select one department to really go into detail on the performance audit. That said, I hope that your policies and anything else that may fall under the performance audit. And Kathy, could you get some kind of information from those counties that have had one as to what types of things that they're looking for?
Yeah, I can send out an email to everyone so you can go to their websites to see their performance audits that are on their web. One of them is several pages.
Quite recently.
So I can do that.
Okay.
But I know the subcommittee, the delegation has a subcommittee to decide how their performance audit is going to look.
Yeah.
But they haven't done that yet. They'll be meeting, and we don't have a set meeting for that. But if you want to see what happened at other counties, it's out there.
Okay. It has nothing to do with us. That's delegation's complete responsibility. And the RSA's, it shows where they can do that, and they're responsible for it. So commissioners are not involved in it. Go ahead.
One of the things that I had mentioned to you, that when we have this performance audit, that we expect everybody to cooperate and answer the questions honestly, so we can get something out of it. gonna be costly, and it won't do us any good if people are afraid to tell the truth or blatantly don't tell the truth. So we would appreciate it when it happens if everybody will do their utmost to cooperate for this performance audit.
Okay. Any further comment on that? Okay. Union negotiations, I know it doesn't affect the elected officials here. We have 3 unions that's coming up this year. And we'll be deciding and talking with the administrators of those unions, department heads that may be involved. We haven't talked about it, and the delegation has, in the past, they've had a committee given guidelines and saying that this is what we look to for union contracts as far as any financial considerations that are given. You know, every year or every time a union contract comes up, it's always subject to the delegation approval. In some cases, they have not approved it, and we've gone without an increase, especially one that happened to the Sheriff's Department, that you never catch up if you don't have some kind of an agreement. It just doesn't happen. And I know the way it was written last time, I believe Commissioner Albee made the arrangements of a certain range that was based on certain criteria. We may be looking at something like that, and I'd be glad to have you give some information to the board as to how you feel about the ranges that should be made for your particular departments. I don't see us starting on those right away. I'll tell you why, and it's up for discussion amongst the board. But the earlier we start, the longer it drags out. We have to pay an attorney to represent us on any negotiations, and we even went to arbitration last time. It cost us money. That money then comes to the, you know, it kind of indirectly affects the raises that we present. So I'm hoping that the unions within the departments, the nursing home, the Sheriff's Department, and the jail, that good consideration is given by the stewards in those departments that come up with some realistic changes to the union contract, so we don't have to keep going on and on and on. Because every time we meet, it costs us money for an attorney. It costs you money because it comes out of your departments. Okay? Go ahead.
Do we have a number, Kathy, of union versus non-union employees? Are we half and half? Are we, you know, I'm just looking for...
I would say... No, there's gotta be, there's 100 and there's 20. There's probably half the employees.
Half and half.
Yeah.
I would think there'd be more union, especially in nursing homes.
Well, the nursing home does,
between,
but then, you know, the other.
Well, the Sheriff's Department.
Like the Sheriff's Office,
And the Sheriff's.
only a third are actually in the
Right,
union, but
right.
the rest are covered by the contract.
Right, yeah, so.
See, we're more
You
around
put that point in, right?
80-20 or we're more around 75-25 or 80-20.
Yeah, they are.
That's,
But we have 300.
but I just meant a balance
300
overall
and-
of county.
I pay over
Wanna ask
300
something?
employees, 305, 306. And the union, the number on the union is about 150,
So
between the 3 unions.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I haven't asked the other 2 board members, but I would hope that along the way, if you folks think of some suggestions for the union negotiations. A negotiation is a give and take. It isn't all take and it isn't all give. But unless we have some ideas of where we can go, for instance, one of them was Becky was in Howie was I think 3 days when you're going to get charged for it anyway, or however it works. But we need to get, if you start thinking of things that might come up, or we might be able to use for leverage to to gain some advantage here, jot it down and let us know what they are.
Mhm. And you know, in a nursing home, that what do we call those?
Episodes.
What's that?
Episodes.
Yeah. That's, I don't think it's working, and if somebody can get that squared away as to some recommendations, we can eliminate that process, and we can come up with something a little better. I'm sure that was done to make sure that people didn't take advantage of the system, but it seems to be happening. So if we can get rid of those, that might be a good step forward. The other thing about unions, as much as possible, again, we've talked about it a little bit, but it'd be nice if we could get something uniform that's throughout the whole campus. I know that may not be possible in some cases, but we've got holidays over here, we've got holidays over there, we've got personal leave days, we've got all kinds of things that are happening. I can see why Kronos is a problem. But if we can try to put that together so that there are some commonalities amongst the unions, it may be difficult, may not be possible, but if we can do that, I think it'd be much better. Any further questions or comments? Yeah.
I think that just both sides have to be creative in their ways of trying to give and take.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily about the dollar sign, but if
No.
you can, you can make it up in other areas. So I think it's just creativity is key during the negotiations.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I misled you on wages. That there are a lot of other things in the contract that I think need to be negotiated. You're right. You're right. Okay. Next item under best practices, I guess, is centralized purchasing, and Commissioner Babson has been one that's been trying to lead this, and I guess I'd open it up to if he has anything to say about it, or if anybody else wants to make a comment. I know the nursing home does do some central purchasing for the jail. I'm not sure where else, and maybe that's up for some discussion. I think tissue paper and so forth even comes to the administration building. It's ordered through the nursing home. Am I correct?
I believe so.
Yeah. All right, it's something that we need to find out what is being done, and maybe we can improve upon it. Maybe we can't, but it's something to look at.
I have looked into some central purchasing for, just using as example, office supplies, and there is at least one provider who will actually drop to the individual department and actually provide separate invoices, but give the advantage of the discount of combined billing. So there are ways that it can be done that wouldn't result. The biggest fear is if you have everything dropped at one point, you have billing problems and you have distribution problems that could far outweigh any incremental savings that you might have. Exactly. But at least on some things, there are ways that we can get the benefit of bulk purchasing without the aggravation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Staples is very willing to do that.
It's the one, we do it now.
Okay.
That all the departments have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Works out very, very nicely.
We do that now.
We get breaks on a lot of things.
Because there's a large group, but then everybody has their own invoicing and own specific needs for paper. Maybe one department has like you maybe have special paper.
We do.
You have special paper for your department, and we just get the generic in the office, kind of thing. So we do already have that with Staples and separate accounts like you guys.
But none of us want to be hauling those boxes from one place to another because they're not right. Even the poor guy that comes in with all that stuff is enough of a job.
I think that from my observation of watching delegation meetings and excuse me, a little bit with the commissioners, I think the commissioners see a little bit better than the delegation, but there's this big misconception out here that none of us department heads work together on those kinds of things. And if you actually saw what was going on, there is a lot. We order a lot of our stuff through the nursing home. Department heads and the maintenance department heads have gotten together to work on getting the same contractors to come work on all our boilers. I know Jason's head up a lot of that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of that goes on that maybe a lot of elected people just don't realize, but there is a lot, the staples, there's a lot of things that we do work on together. We kind of customize it because we're all a little different, but we try to work on a lot of those together also.
Okay. Any further comment? You don't make any comment?
Well, it just came to my attention the other day, you know, we have the jail buying razors and we have the nursing home buying razors. And, I mean, it's a substantial amount of razors, and we should be.
In defense of that, we buy security razors from a correction facility, so unless the residents of the nursing home want to use those, that's the difference. We order from a special supplier for that reason, because they have to be see-through and tamper-proof, which you probably wouldn't want to use for a resident.
Let's hypothetically say, Michael, that your price for the razors is cheaper than the nursing home. Is it a perfectly good razor for the nursing home?
That's not my call to make. I buy them for the inmates, not for the residents at the nursing home.
But usable for the, because the fact is, your razors were cheaper.
I'm glad they're cheaper.
Maybe we should.
So maybe if you give me a dozen, we can see if they work at the nursing
Sure,
home, and then we can.
We'll trade off and.
I mean, that's what you're talking about. I mean, if you've got a cheaper razor, maybe we can trade off and see if we can order from one supplier.
That really isn't cost effective, because you're not going to save a lot of money. But one person buying them instead of two people putting their time in buying them, that is a savings.
Well, no, and that's what I'm saying. If he sends some over, we might be able to let him order for us. That I think this is why these meetings are important, because now I know he's getting a different razor. We probably, no offense, we can probably use it. So let's give me 10 and we'll try them on our male residents and make sure they're compatible, and then he can order our razors for us.
Maybe you can help him out to keep residents from escaping too.
Yeah, we're working on that.
Do you have any, can you give me a perimeter fence too?
Yeah.
I'll trade off with you.
We'll give you the transponders that locks everything
The real
down.
one is the real one, Kathy ran a readout for 2012, and believe it or not, for office supplies, we bought pennies short of $38,000 worth of office supplies, including, and that ought to get us some buying power someplace.
Go ahead, Vic.
We could decrease that substantially if we could move ahead on a storage system for paper.
How big a room would you need?
I wanted electronic. I mean, literally, just I'll give you an example. One MDS for one resident, and now we're doing 10 or 12 a day, is 63 pages. Even doing both sides of it, you're still talking 30 pages of paper that ends up having to be filed somewhere.
And does it have to be copied also?
Yes. So if we could get rid of things like that, we would have a substantial savings in office supplies.
Is this dock system that we had an individual in going to help in that regard?
It would. I guarantee you the nursing home could probably pay for that contract in a year itself with no help from anybody else because of the massive amount of paper. I mean, it's a ream every other day just for MDSs.
We have records that have to be stored in fireproof cabinets that we wouldn't need if it were electronic storage.
Yeah.
And some of those cabinets are $800 a piece.
Well, that's why we've gone to the data management system, and it's you know, it creates other needs for other equipment, different kind of computers or different capacities, but it's really going to cut down, and the whole judicial system is going that route, so it's coming. I mean, we have that whole vault that's full. And I don't want to, I mean, some of those old cases from the 20s, some of them are pre-Miranda, they're fascinating, they're great historical documents, but we can't keep the new stuff. We can, we need to move away from paper.
Debbie, do you know where the RFP is for that automated, or do you, Kathy?
I know Janice was working on it, and she had sent it to John at Cybertron to make sure it carried all the components. So I'll check with John to see where he's at with that.
Okay.
Because it was out, we're ready to just send it out.
Okay. We will be going under a new system of documents, which definitely would help out probably all departments, especially the nursing home. So.
And I think it would save us money, like they pointed out, the safe, the special safe, what they need for the medical records. That money actually could have been go towards the purchase.
The first year's contract price is what I have to pay for 3 fireproof safes this year to put records in.
That's crazy.
$2,400 worth of fireproof safes versus $2,400 of a company that can put it out in virtual
Right.
reality for us.
The bid we did, well, not the bid, because we haven't put it out for bid
Right.
yet, but the suggestion that we had from that one company was about $24,000
A year.
to go into it, so if we can save money, that'd be great, and save time and
Well,
paper
plus you
and so
have to
forth.
have the paper trail. She has to have that paper trail.
Yeah,
of
we have to have the
accessing.
auditing of the medical records by 2/15, so that would also help with that.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Is there any, Beck, is there any problem with federal regulations that would prevent you from doing it, or
No,
forcing you to
because-
do something special?
No, it's been recognized that as long as you have a copy now, that's admissible for everything, as if you had the piece of paper in your hand. The one thing about the document thing is you can always print out a hard copy if you need it for something but even the state reviewers now, when they review, if you've got an electronic medical record, you just make a universal password and they do all their reviews right through the computer. They don't even want the paper. So as we get more and more electronic, you're going to see that happening more and more.
And electronic documenting systems, control systems like that, are actually considered more secure because they're time-stamped. When you put information into them, those transactions are time-stamped.
Okay, somebody check to see where the RFP is, okay? Budgets, as you know, the county delegation has approved the budget. As far as I know, the sheet has not been signed yet.
Right, they are meeting today, probably lunchtime, to sign the form.
Mhm.
I sent it down, there's copies for everyone, so I'm probably gonna get a call from Karen Umberger saying that it's signed, and then at that point, I will distribute everyone's budgets to them. I just didn't wanna do it until,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And there's been no changes since we met with the delegation?
Just that when they put in the total, they put in the wrong amount when they were going
Adding it
back
up.
and forth. So I made that adjustment, explained it to Karen, and so she understands. So actually, it's a little less, and the amount to be raised by taxes is a little less.
Okay.
So-
And what, do you have a final figure? Percentage-wise?
Oh, the percentage, the budget, I believe, was 2.1%, and the amount to be raised by taxes was 3.4%.
Okay. Okay. Any questions on the budget? We need to look at I believe you have a LNAs was a question. We need to have an update as to where you are coming from for the LNA increases.
As soon as I get the new figure, I'll break it down again like I had it before for what we
Okay.
presented.
Okay. Payment vouchers or vouchers for bill payments, as I hope all of you know, the commissioners see all those vouchers. We look at them, we question some of them. A lot of them are repeats from month to month. But we want to make sure that all department heads sign those vouchers. We look for your initials on it, that, you've approved it, your department has approved it. And then if we question the sheriff as to a $50 lunch that one of his deputies may have taken, I'm only using this as an example, but we would question what McDonald's they went to. So we do look at them and we do sign them. We probably sign 60 of those every week. So it's important that we continue to make sure that those vouchers are signed or initials by the department heads. Any further questions on that? Comments? Okay. We many times lack recognition of our outstanding employees. Somehow or other, and would be open to recommendations or suggestions as to how we can recognize outstanding people, not just for longevity, but for what they do on the job. There are some people that are dedicated, and there are some people that probably could care less. But a lot of people do the extra effort according to their job description, or maybe even beyond their job description. So I think I'd like to have some input from anybody and everybody as to how we can recognize these people. I know some people are recognized through the New Hampshire Association of Counties, and I hope that that continues, that we have recommendations from all departments, so that we can recognize them at the annual meeting. So if anybody's got suggestions on recognizing people.
I guess I'd really, at this point, like to publicly commend our Carroll County Crusaders that are, and that's a group from the nursing home, from the registry of deeds. It's the whole, the jail, I mean, the whole complex. There's a group of people working. I have one of their pins.
There's people from every department.
Every department that are giving of their time for this effort to raise money for cancer.
Yep.
And it's been going on for a couple months, and I keep saying, you know, let the word get out there. And I'm really proud of all of these people that are doing this. It's growing, and
quite a bit of money.
They've earned money, but it's also brought everybody together.
The morale of departments, interdepartment, has been huge.
Yeah, yeah.
Great
cooperation.
Getting
to know each other.
Yeah, their energy is wonderful.
They're all bringing energy to the project, and it's been fun.
Yeah.
To see that. A lot of times people didn't know who worked where.
Right.
And now they're having regular meetings at the nursing home.
On their own time.
On their own time.
It's all volunteer time.
And I think special kudos to Diana Sullivan.
Who's got more energy
who is, she's actually spearheading the effort as the captain of the team,
Yeah.
and she's just been dynamic.
Her energy is contagious. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
we're very proud.
I mean, we don't have to, I'm just saying it out there so the press knows. And
good example.
that.
Great.
Is there some way that could be put on the county website, because it is a county? I mean, Mr. Chandler puts it on the Mountain View Facebook every time they meet and what they're doing, but is there some way that we could put?
We actually did have it on the Human Resources tab. For the month of March, Human Resources supported the Carroll County Crusaders for the Relay for Life for the American Cancer Society. And it was just a blurb that let anybody who was interested know exactly what they were doing, including the Shamrock sales.
But a lot of people don't know to go under the HR. That's one problem with our website, is they don't know which tab to go under for what thing. Yeah. Like I keep having people say, where do you get an application? And I have to go in and say, you got to go under HR, then go under this.
We actually fixed that. There's a little button now on the front, on the home page of the website that people can click on. It'll take them directly to applications.
But you know, when you look at our web page compared to most web pages, there's not a lot of not a lot of hit you in the face stuff on the main home page. This would be great on the main home page, you know, that says this is what the county's doing and stuff. So maybe we need to look at our website a little bit too and update it again to sort of make it in your face.
Okay. I'm not going to go over this last one, but I would open it up to anybody that's got any suggestions that might help improve cooperation or the benefit of the complex, our employees, whatever. I just quickly open it up because I said we wouldn't go after 11 o'clock, but here we are. Time passes pretty quickly. Anybody?
Can I tell you
yes.
something?
Go ahead, Ann.
It may seem minor to you, but you know, we've talked before about having something that actually unites the employees, and something that you actually honor the employees once a year in some fashion. And I think actually even the longevity got off the track since Robin has left, but my girls still remember their box lunches as a treat of being a county employee that was given to them once a year. It was like picnic day or something. And, you know, there's a lot to be said for morale of employees. I mean, I'm very fortunate. I have a real strong crew that works really well together. But I think it was the fact of knowing you're part of a bigger family, you're part of the county family, and I think that's what the Relay for Life has really brought out. I've always gone to county home things when they have their fairs or anything special, just to be supportive to another department. And I think it really helps people to know that the county cares about them.
Yeah.
Not just their paycheck, but wants to be
Yeah,
there for them.
yeah, I agree.
And I think our HR department helps out on that a great deal now, that they have another resource.
The nursing home used to have a picnic, and also, I don't know if you maybe still do, but they also had a recognition meal type thing. And I remember 3 people from over at the courthouse, bailiffs, coming to that and being recognized by, I guess the sheriff had recommended that they be recognized, but we didn't have anybody else of any of the other departments that showed up for that. And it's kind of too bad, but give us some thought and see what we can come up with for some kind of a recognition day for county employees. Anybody else got any comments or questions? No? If that's it, then I'm sorry I kept you 3 minutes longer than what we thought we'd have. You got a comment there?
Just a short one, and just to revisit it, I congratulate you on your employee manual, and I don't think that it was meant to confuse, but on the vacation and sick accrual time, that's always been sort of a confusing piece. And one could see during the discussion here this morning that if you're getting 1 credit for an 8-hour day, then one could make the argument that you're getting 1.25 credits for a 10-hour day. A 40-hour employee that works 4 days, 4 10-hour days, would get 5 credits versus a 40-hour employee who worked 8-hour days getting 4 credits. So I think you still need to work on that vacation accrual. It's the jail, especially as Captain Fowler noted, has a number of different time increments that they're working. And I don't think it was clarified this morning, and I certainly wouldn't want to work on the budgetary things. But maybe there's a union issue that you've negotiated more vacation for the correctional officers that are working 10 and 12-hour days. I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Ed, you had your hand up way back. You're all set? All right, I don't want to get into a long discussion here. But
do you always expect a long discussion from me?
All right, make it quick.
I just had a quick question about Kronos. Does Kronos, that company, also have any sort of a payroll software?
They do, but the cost of that program is exorbitant.
Okay, so it wouldn't be beneficial to have the same company doing both softwares instead of 2 interfacing?
No. No. It's something that could possibly happen theoretically in the future, long into the future.
Yeah, but Kronos
right
interfaces into our software. Our software is designed to take Kronos.
Okay, there was some hesitation in your comments earlier, but I think it's going to work that way.
No,
I think
because
this might
the
happen,
reason
so
I
was
say
just
I
wondering.
think is because it has, the employee has to be put in
Okay.
accurately on both sides.
Okay.
One more. We gotta have a time to go into non-public at 11 o'clock. But go ahead, Damon, quickly.
Sure. Earlier this morning, the commissioner said they couldn't comment on Janice's status. I'm just wondering if you could clarify any information about
There's no comment at this time.
where our HR director is,
No comment.
or when she left, or if she left.
Okay, anything else? All right, thank you all for sharing, and we'll get back to you on some of the ideas, and please give us some feedback too.
I got a schedule.
You might ask them.
And they have to like what
We're not unique.
Oh, it does? Yeah, and then it like make 10 runs or something like that, so.
Commissioner Babson?
Commissioner Babson? Are you going into non-public? Commissioner Babson.
Hey, Commissioner Babson. We're trying to
Are
get
you
in touch
going
with-
into non-public?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Sorensen.
Yes.
Commissioner Kenney. Yes.
So voted.
Oh, no, I added it to what you already.
Yeah.